have some really funky shapes to them. Quite a big hole in it, which is for the dot. I forgot to mirror these. So annoying. Yeah, right? This is not too bad, is it? Not too bad. So at this point I decided to take a little break and go for a walk with my boyfriend. Then I realized that I never finished sewing in any pockets, and I closed up the side seams. So we can't have that, can we? We need pockets in our lives. So obviously I need to fix that. And in order to do this, I'm going to use the same pocket pattern that I had for my cycling skirt, because it's a decent sized pocket and I think it will work for this as well. After we've finished the pocket, we're gonna start making the sleeves. And the sleeves are always the worst part of any project. I don't think I'm alone in thinking that. I think it's pure fact at this point, but there we are. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about the, I don't know what it's called, Mohawk. It is freezing cold in here because the wind is blowing so hard. I don't think the heating system is quite picking up how much it needs to heat, so it's super cold. So I'm wearing this. That's just how it's gonna be. Anyway, I have cut out 4 of these pieces, which are the pocket pieces, and you can see they are massive, which is great. So I can fit all of my stuff comfortably. I've already started out a little bit. What I have done so far is open up this seam right there to fit the pocket. Namely, this part of the pocket. Take your pocket. Now it doesn't really matter which side because these sides are so similar. But you take the right side of the coat and you pin the edge of the pocket to the right side of the coat. Then you stitch down. Once you've done that, you flip this to the inside and you press. And then we're gonna stitch the pocket itself together. So I've now sewn down the stuff that I showed you, and I've pinned the flappy bits of the pockets together, and I'm now gonna sew I'm now going to sew around this, which means that once that's complete, there's a pocket here where you can stick in your hand, which is what we want. The sleeves consist of 2 different parts. This slightly smaller part, which is sort of the under sleeve. This slightly bigger upper sleeve, which is going, well, on top of your arm. We have sleeves. Now we have to insert the sleeves, which is the worst part of sewing, always. First off, we're gonna gather up this part here. I think it's indicated on the pattern, how far you gather. And then you just insert them. Hopefully it will be fine. I have a few thoughts that I hope I can get out before my battery dies. I'm worried that this will turn out to be a mock-up because of the fabric I chose. It's not, I think the fabric is fine if you're more used to sewing or tailoring, but for me, I'm worried just touching it because it frays so much, and also since it doesn't have that much stability, I find it difficult to get it to hold a nice shape. So I think overall it looks sort of messy, but I'm gonna finish it up with the sleeves and we're gonna try it on, and hopefully once I take out the basting stitches, that won't be an issue anymore. First off though, sleeves. A quick update. I actually ended up stitching in some padding into the chest area of the coat. During the Victorian era, this was not uncommon. If you didn't have the curves, you would pad out your clothing until you got them. So I feel like this doesn't bother me. Mostly it wasn't because I felt like the coat wasn't curvy enough, but because the chest part sort of caved in on itself. And I think that's to do with my fabric choice again. Because it is so thin and flowy, I don't think that was the best choice for this coat, as I said before. this is the inside, and this is one of the sides. You can see I just made a square, and this one I pad stitched down, and I feel like that makes it hold the shape better at the front. However, I'm not sure if it picks up on camera, but in real life you can sort of see the little pricks through to this the outer fabric. So it doesn't look so smooth. It looks like it's perpetually in need of a good press. And that does bother me. But I feel like that's going to be the entire look of this gown. This is what it looks like on. And I think it looks pretty good actually. It looks much better than I thought it was going to. As you can also see, I attached the sleeves. I noticed that the floof is sort of very far back in the arm side, and I'm not sure if I should have angled it a bit more, but this seam I feel is in the correct place, because right where I have my inside of the elbow is where the curve is, so I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, the poof isn't that noticeable. I think it's also because of the fabric. It sort of doesn't want to hold the shape that much, but it is enough of a poof that it's fine. I still like it. What is next? Well, we need a lining. That is the next step. We're gonna go on to make the lining. And this is the first part of that. It is the mirrored front piece that's just gonna stay here, and I'm gonna sew that in first. So what I'm gonna do first is just reinforce this corner like we did here, just to give it some stability. Then we are going to sew up the back, which is the back at the neck here, and then attach it to the coat. I'm not gonna lie, I am so tired today. I don't know why. I feel like I'm about to get a cold or something, but we'll see. So, what we have done is connect the back piece of the collar, as I said I would, and then I have pinned it right sides together along all of the... Maybe I should put it here, it would be easier to see. Hang on. So yeah, this piece is pinned right sides together all the way around, so that once we've sewn this down we can flip it over and it will be the new collar and facing. So I think that will be fairly easy. It's just going to be a straight stitch all the way around. Well, it is done. And that does make it look a lot more like a coat than it previously did. I pressed the seams, but I think I'm gonna have to repress them and actually use some water and spray it, because here particularly you cannot really tell that it's been pressed, even though I totally pressed it. So I think I'm gonna have to spray it and then press it again, or use like a damp cloth or something to make sure that it stays pressed. Overall, I don't think that me pressing those seams is going to salvage how this looks, because it does look a little bit amateurish. So the fabric store that I went to didn't have the best lining for this project. Let me show you the fabric that I got. This one. And I really like the lining fabric. I think it's just a pretty fabric. However, when I got it home I realized it doesn't quite go with this fabric. The lining is not supposed to be seen, so this wouldn't be the end of the days. The end of the days? The end of the days? Do you say that in English? I don't know. But since I already sort of want to remake this coat one more time, but in wool, I think I'm gonna use that fabric for that. And get no lining fabric again, which is what's happening on my screen right now. Is my boyfriend is very kindly going to the fabric store to pick up sample fabric for me. He's a keeper, I know. So, I cannot remember where we left off last time making this coat. This is the wrong coat. Hang on. Here we are. However did you manage to do that? It took me some time to decide, and to buy and get the lining fabric, but it is now here. I ended up going with this rather lovely burgundy color instead. I think it matches much better. Now I only hope I have enough. Good news, it fit. There was actually no issue. I still have like 20 centimeters left at the bottom, so that's good. I can relax a little bit. Now, what we do is basically the same steps as we did with the fashion fabric. So the 3 little lines, create the dots, sew across, and then swoosh. And I'm just gonna do that because you've already seen how it's done, and then we can attach the lining. So I have now started with the lining, and it looks much better together. It's not perfect, but much better. And there are different ways to go about doing lining. I mean, I think bag lining is the most common one, but I don't quite like that. So what I've done is I have put this on the mannequin, but like with the wrong side out, which is why it's sort of not wanting to lie correctly up here, but I'm hoping that won't be a problem. And then I'm just pinning the lining in place, and as I go, I take the edge, I fold it in, and I pin. At the back, just looks like this. So I think it's okay. It's not perfect, but it's the lining, so it don't really have to be. It's coming along nicely. You can see I'm just felling down the lining to the front facing, and I think it looks fine. I still have this left and also the entire bottom. I have now put all of my pins, it seems like, into this bottom lining. I also need to stitch this together, and then it's just a lot of hemming to get done. After I've done that, I can try it on before I insert the sleeves, just to make sure that it's not pulling too much in any spot, but I think it should be fine. So I noticed an issue with my seam here, and it's because I did the top layer, the fashion fabric, too long, so it sort of wants to bulge over, but it can't because it's stuck to the bottom here where I felled it down. So what I'm doing now is I'm unpicking it, and while it's actually on the mannequin, I'm stretching it out and repinning it, and hopefully that will be okay. So this hem, it is like this all around. And I remember I told you that I was going to try to fix it by restitching it. And I did to some places, and I think, oops, and I think that the places that I did, fixed it, but I probably need to redo the entire hem. I realized that the original reason that I gave is correct. I think it is because it's longer, the fashion fabric is longer than the lining fabric. I think that's still true, that's still correct. But because when I hem it, I end up stitching into both the folded up edge as well as the all the way to the front. I think that means that it cannot slip, because otherwise this will probably just pull down and fold over a bit more. But it's sort of locked in this position. I'm not sure if I can understand it properly, explain it properly. I redo the entire hem, and I do my utmost to only catch the one layer, not catch all the way to the front. Sewed together the sleeve linings, and here's a compilation of that. Then I removed all of the basting threads. We are actually at the home stretch, so I have attached the lining to the sleeves, and I don't think I showed you how I did that, which is my bad. Fold the edges inwards and then just stitch it down with a filling stitch. So we are down to the final stretch, which is the buttonholes and buttons, and I was, and still sort of am, terrified at doing buttonholes with this fabric here, just because I'm afraid that it will fray, and that means that it won't be very stable. So as I realized that the fit wasn't great and that there are issues with the jacket in general that I can't fix now, and that I probably would like to redo this in a year or two maybe with better fabric, that, or like better for me anyway, I decided it doesn't really matter if the buttonholes doesn't hold up for 10 years, since this is in a way just gonna be another mock-up. I mean, it's not really, it wasn't supposed to be, but it will be. So I'm gonna do them by hands, and I have already started a bit. This is how I do it. I have one of these, if I can, oh no. These really nice things, which I use to mark where I want to have my buttonholes, so that they are evenly spaced. Then I sewed squares to mark them, so it's permanent, and they are not completely, after I made this square, which is just like a back stitch around, I cut open the buttonhole and then I do the buttonhole stitch around, so it's very simple. After we've done that, we're just gonna match the buttons to the corresponding side. They are a bit Illuminati, or like a bit, looks a bit like an eye, but I liked the fact that there's something there. So yeah, I'm gonna get to stitching a lot of buttonholes today. As you can see, I have added the buttons and the buttonholes, which means it is time to film the reveal. The reveal! The reveal! So after that very nice reveal, I guess it's time for some final thoughts and a review of what I think I did good and maybe not so good. Overall, I mean, the jacket it's nice. It's not as nice as I'd hoped, but that's not because of the pattern, but because of my incompetence. So I like the overall fit. I mean, it's very comfortable. I can move like freely. There's no restriction in mobility. I have pockets, and I mean, just looking at it, I think it looks fine, but it looks slightly homemade. And once again, I think, as I said before, it's because of the fabric I chose. I'm not really good enough to make this fabric look good with this sort of very tailored appearance of this jacket. There are quite a few small issues with it, and one, it's that I'm not sure how long it will last, because when I looked over it now, I still find sort of small threads poking out, and I'm not sure if it's because I forgot to cut them when I stitched the whole thing together, or if it's because it's already slightly coming apart in the seams. And I'm not sure I want to know, because I spent a lot of hours on this jacket or coat or whatever you want to call it, and if it falls apart after one use, I will be so annoyed. Another thing is in the back of the coat, which I will show you here. you can see that the lining sort of sticks up and is visible, and it shouldn't be. I think this is also to do with how I installed the lining, and I didn't do it, I think, as is specified in the pattern, so it's probably my fault and not the pattern's fault again. Around here, around the chest area, you can see it's very wrinkly. It doesn't hold the shape very nicely, and I think that's something that I could have possibly fixed before if I had taken the time to really tailor it. I think it would have been easier with a different material, but mostly I think this is down to me not being able to do it perfectly yet. This is the first time I'm really trying something this complicated anyway. So there's that. The back, I should mention, as I talked about in my previous video, is hitting where it should. So I'm glad I actually changed that. So the only alterations I really made to the pattern is I took it in a little. I made the seam allowances just a little bit bigger in some of the seams. So it's not really that much of a difference from the original pattern. Overall, I am happy with it. I know I've bashed on it a lot, but the fact that I managed to make a coat that I will wear all of the time, and which will last me at least, I hope, for a year or two, is good. It's much better than anything I've thought I would be able to make when I started sewing. So the next jacket I make, which spoilers is hanging over there, is for the winter, I've already made improvements. My thinking is that in a few years, when this version sort of starts to fall apart, I can redo it, and I've learned so many new things and I can perfect it. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this, the making of this coat, and sorry for the slightly rambly finish here. Anyway, if you like this video, do subscribe, give us a like and all of that jazz, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! It's not a jacket you want when you really need to pee when you get home, because it takes quite a lot of time to take off with all of the buttons. After we've finished the pockets, we're going to start sewing up the side, the okay. Oh, yep. Hello. I'm just sitting inside, reading with my jacket on, and this is not staged.